So welcome everybody. Thank you for joining me. So I'm Caroline and Melissa was going to be joining us, but she sadly um, lost her mum. So our thoughts are with her this evening, and but she is tremendous help to me. And if any one of you have ever needed anything, if you've come through to us on the phones, Melissa and Leo are there when I'm not around to help you. And Melissa's been with me for I think 4 or 5 years now, and so she's very experienced, and um, is a great support to customers and helping them with finding what they need. So. Okay, so Bleyer was established in 2009, and we're open online 24/7. We're here to help you make the best decisions possible when it comes to buying and selling bullion, and we'll share with you what we know. So we exist to demystify and make bullion investment more accessible to everyone. And please look us up on FIFO if you don't know us very well, and it will tell you more than it means more than me telling you that my team's great. Please read for yourself. Okay, I don't know what we're going to talk about today. This isn't particularly about advice, but the disclaimer's up there. So precious metals can go down as well as up, and Bleyer accepts no responsibility for any losses based on information we've provided. We do not offer investment advice, but share our experience and knowledge for the purpose of raising awareness. It's up to you to do your own research and, if necessary, obtain professional advice before making an investment decision. So I set the business up, but it's the team that makes it. So everybody plays their part, and my job would be a nightmare without my support backup team. And there are other people in the background, Paul, who looks after our website, and family, other family who are just wonderful support and friends. So a big thanks to all of those. Okay, what I wanted to talk to you about really was a bit about my journey and my money story. And the reason for doing this is because we all have to start somewhere. And I started on my bullion journey knowing absolutely nothing. And the decisions I've made throughout my life have been based on a number of different experiences. I've been struggling to create a slide that can explain it all. So please bear with me, and I'll try and talk about each of these segments. Maybe that's helpful. And because over the years I've spoken to people who have beliefs about themselves and their ability to save money, to make money, whether they feel positive about having money. There's a lot of guilt that sometimes is associated with being successful, especially in this country. I think the Americans are a lot better at celebrating success than we are. So, I'm aware that they're kind of like a self-destruct button sometimes for some people, that stops them from perhaps doing as well as they possibly could. So when I was growing up, I had very mixed messages. My On my mother's side, my her parents were Hungarian refugees, so they'd come over during just before the war, and then the extended family came over after the war, and I know really very little about their experience. Um, and we didn't talk about that side of things, but they were Jewish, from Jewish descent, but not religious. Um, so I don't know what happened in Hungary during the war. I think they just had to be really careful. Um, on my father's side, my um, my my grandparents on that side were shopkeepers, and my dad was the youngest of three, and a big gap between him and his sisters. And I know even less about them, to be honest. But you kind of pick up bits and pieces. And both of my parents are now dead. My mum died in August, and it's really made me think about, where did I come from, and what has made me who I am, and made me think about things in the way that I do. So, I've been doing a lot of soul searching lately, and money's part of the story, but it's only a small part, really. But there can be all sorts of emotions around money, like shame was one that I think I felt more so, perhaps when I was younger. That the people that I wanted to spend time with tended to be people with no money, um, and and I suppose when we talk about a self-destruct button, I did, I sort of saw certain sorts of people who had, perhaps people that you might say would describe as being professional, um, as, I don't know, not maybe the kinds of people that I didn't want to be like that. I didn't want to be a solicitor or a lawyer or, there was something, but there were certain, I don't know, it's hard to describe, but I felt much more comfortable with, and I probably still do, people who make things, people who grow stuff, people who are in touch with, maybe seem to be more in touch with the the more down to earth things. Having said that, I have, I have lots of good friends as well who are now as I've grown up, I think my views have changed a bit. But it was more about people, about life, about, a bit of a struggle, I suppose. And I'm not, I think that perhaps came from maybe from my dad. He was a bit of a make to amend. He was never successful in business. And so I think you kind of find things in a, you want to disassociate yourself with people who perhaps are more successful, are good at making money, are in control or seem to be in control. Um, so, yeah, it's, you know, money mindset can be a bit of you can go on a little bit of a journey, um, of your own. And sometimes it's useful exercise to sit down and quietly meditate on, ask the question, what does money mean to me? What does money give me? What, how do I identify myself in relation to money? But, I learned to be good with money. I learned to save money because I didn't want to have to ask anyone um, to borrow money or for a handout when I wanted to do something, even when I was quite young, sort of 12, 13 years old. I felt like money gave me a sort of power because I could buy the things that I wanted without there being any guilt attached. And you think, why did I feel guilty about having any money at the age of 12? I'm talking about pocket money now, not huge sums of money. And I think it was because my parents talked about their overdraft a lot, and it wasn't intended to cause us anxiety, but I think I'm a deep thinker and I suffered from insomniac as a child, and I try and put pieces of a puzzle together and make sense of the world. Why did people behave in a particular way towards me when I did X, Y, and Z? I've always been a bit overly analytical, so you can probably tell from my explanation here. It's probably a bit obvious, that bit. Um, so yeah, as a kid, trying to make sense of things, and what did I want my relationship to with money to look like? And I think I wanted to make my own money. I had a very strong feeling about that. I didn't feel comfortable spending other people's money. So, um, yeah, and then, so that's, yeah, a bit about that. I could talk a bit more about it, um, but I think that's probably got the gist of it. So I enjoyed working. I've always enjoyed working, and I had my own jobs, and I earned enough money so that when I left home at 17, I wasn't worried that I wouldn't be able to cope. Um, I didn't want to have to go back to my parents and with a hat for a handout. So I'd rather shake the sofa for coins to buy a bag of chips, which is things that happen, than admit to my parents that I wasn't coping. So, um, so that's a bit about my younger life. Um, I did lots of different jobs. Worked in petrol stations. I did paper rounds. I've cleaned flats, all kinds of things, and then I got a proper job and I went to university. I thought at 25 I need to start thinking about a career. The casual labour type work was seemed to be less available to me as I got older. Um, I think as an employer, looking for people to do those things, you perhaps gravitate towards a younger person, who you can pay less money to. So, so I went to university and I got a degree in business computing systems. So that taught me a little bit about systems, um, and then I had my daughter and joined the family business. So I'd been avoiding getting involved with my family, but I was kind of pushed into it by my ex-husband. Um, and and I really started thinking a bit around that time, when I had my own child, uh, back about this issue. And when we started getting involved with investments, I went went and did some some courses. I did a course with Tony Robbins, um, and I've done some spread betting courses as well with Greg Secker, and um, and then we got we got to we moved to Devon in 2006, and my ex-husband, I'd been working the family business. My dad died, and I ran things for 6 or 7 years, looked after a property portfolio, and then we wound that up and bought some gold with some of set my mum up so that she had everything that she needed and didn't need to worry about tenants. And um, my ex-husband, who was a great researcher and reader, said, I think we should buy some precious metals. I had the feeling that the stock market was coming to a head and possibly house prices were over inflated. And, so it made sense to me. And it also made me start thinking about, yeah, my ancestors would have used precious metals. They came over to Hungary, from Hungary. How would they have brought their wealth? It wasn't easy to move money around in those days. Even back in, was it 2000 and, no, it was 19 something. I went with my mum to get some money out of Hungary because she'd had some property that was handed back that had been confiscated by the communists. Communists, and then when the wall came down, there was some handing back of property that had been confiscated, and she'd inherited a small piece of land, and it wasn't a lot of money. It was kind of the sort of sum you might use to spend on a holiday. But nevertheless, we went over there, and she had to take that money out in cash. And then it was, that's another story, but, so how would they have moved money around? And I imagine they probably would have brought gold. It would have made sense to me that that's how they transported their wealth. Um, and my grandparents were entrepreneurs. My grandfather was a doctor of law, although he never practiced in this country. And they bought property that they then rented out. But I'm sure there are some stories there that I'd love to know in my family's past. So so that's where I've come from, and it's I kind of with COVID and with some of the stories that I'd heard from my mum about things that had happened during the war, and that people heard things, but they didn't believe them. They didn't want to believe them. And then, when it became quite clear about the concentration camps, you know, that was, my mum said to me, she said, it was really strange because we knew about it, and it's a bit like some of the things that we're hearing today. People are hearing about things, and they know about them, and yet they're letting those things happen. And I was kind of determined, like, not to be someone that doesn't listen. When my kids were young and weren't happy at school, I decided I wasn't just going to brush off their comments and do nothing and just say, oh, well, it must be you. You must have done something to upset that person. I think really listen to my kids. And I think it's about, I suppose what I'm trying to say is I think we need to listen more. We need to listen to our past. We need to listen to our stories, and we need to listen to what we're telling ourselves and really hear it. Um, and this isn't really what I had planned to talk about, but there you go. It often happens that way when I'm chatting with people as well on the phone. So, so yeah, so I got into gold and silver. I went over to Guernsey. Um, decided to, my husband had told me about, let's get some gold and silver. But I went over there and I met this guy called Bruce, who had the Guernsey Mint, and and I decided to buy some gold and silver and palladium, and And then I thought, oh well, he'll be able to sort out storage for me because I needed to leave it over there for it to be VAT free. Um, and he said, "Oh yeah, I can sort something out," but he really didn't have a clue, and he hadn't really thought it through. And the the first the first option he came up with fell through, and he had to find something else. And this was between buying and it actually arriving with them. And I thought, I'd really like to set something like this up for people in the UK. And originally, I was going to have a Guernsey based operation and go into partnership with him, but that didn't really work out. So we ended up setting up a business in the UK, and my husband worked with me for 3 years. And after he left, I reshaped everything and and brought in the e-commerce side of things. We had a website, but we weren't able to take payments for people, and we didn't have the range of products that we do now. And I didn't know about capital gains tax either, that British legal tender was exempt from capital gains tax. So, that's something I've been able to share with my clients and help them navigate some of those tax issues. I also now have an option to buy silver in the UK as long as you have it in storage, tax free. It's only when you take it out of storage that you would pay any tax. So, um, yeah, so we set up 2009. In 2012, I went and became a sole trader, and then in 2020 set up the limited company that we are now. So if you look us up, you'll probably see that it may look like we haven't been going as long as we have, but we've been trading as Bleyer Bullion since 2009. So 15 years in May, which is the longest I've ever held one job. So um, it's a big thing for me. It's been a big part of my life, and and I have some wonderful customers, which makes the business and a wonderful team. It's it's something we do together. Without my customers, I've got no business. Without my staff, I'd be doing it on my own, which would be no fun. I think for me, owning bullion, it's as part of my portfolio because I believe in being honest about what who I am, what I invest in. Um, I don't put it all into bullion. I have I own the shop that um, that we operate out of now, and I've got my home, and also I've got some stocks and shares which I don't manage myself. I think it's good to have a diversified assets because you never know what's going to be controlled by whom, and you know what could happen in the future. And I know that a lot of my customers are very anti-stock market. I wouldn't say I'm pro stock market. I just It just works for me to have that diversification. And I think you if you feel unsure about something and your gut instinct tells you to avoid whatever, go with it. I don't have all the answers. um I just do what is right for me, and I only put, I suppose, what I'm prepared to lose into any one thing. I do feel like there's something different about bullion in that, especially physical, that you have in your hand, um, that you can't, it can't be that easily taken away from you. You're so, even if the value of it drops, even if the exchange value drops, you've still got something. Um, and so, yeah, so I've used um, the top, the top, that's in the middle here. So my own experiences and experiments. I've made plenty of mistakes uh, with the background of the stories from my family, the ones I know about, the ones I don't know about, the ones I sense, um, and I look at what kind of future do I want to build for my children? What tools do I want in my armory? And it's not just about money; it's about what lessons can we learn and teach. So, I've learned and grown a lot through being the managing director, the CEO, whatever you call me, of Bleyer. Um, and I'm incredibly grateful for this experience. And and I hope that I've been able to help some other people as well. And there you are. I think that's enough talking for me. So let's see what we've got in the chat. Oh, there was some other slides I have. So yeah, if you've this is from this is from my last presentation, which I was talking about capital gains tax and what any questions on capital gains tax. So I probably will just touch on that now as we are together. Anyone who doesn't know, we've currently got £6,000 CGT allowance. That's going down to £3,000. So that's a gain that you can make £6,000 until the end of this tax year in April, beginning of April. That drops to £3,000. So if you have any gains that you want to crystallise, do it quickly. If you've got bars that you want to swap for coins, and this is more applicable to gold than it is to silver, because you do have to take account of the spread. And if you have any questions about that, talk to us probably on a one-to-one basis, and I can look at it case by case. But don't leave it to the last minute, please. And so, yeah. So, like I said, like the middle line says, sometimes the right decision is to remain as you are. But we're always happy to chat to you about your plans, and if you can do a little bit of work and by thinking about what outcomes do you want, that really helps us to guide you. So thank you for listening.